What is up, y'all? Closed off and closed out. That's literally what happened. I saw it coming because I watched too much reality TV. I already knew what was gonna happen. But if y'all vote for that couple when it's time to vote for the winners, y'all prove that y'all ain't shit. Y'all full of shit. But thumbs up the video, y'all. Shout out to y'all as always, showing so much love. We are on the road to 15K. But short-term goal, like we said, 12,000. Let's try and get as close to it as we can before the end of the season. Subscribe, thumbs up the video, get in the comments. I'm going to see y'all on the other side. Because this one, we didn't really have too much to talk about. But, you know, we're getting towards the end of the season. So it's expected. But let's go. All right, so we get Amaya and Bryan where they were heading on into the hideaway. And they go check everything out. They're both giddy. They're laughing about everything. She takes her robe off. He tells her how good she looks and pulls her on top of him. And they start getting to kissing. And she ends up pulling out the cold foam. And they get right back to work. They got sexual chemistry, and you can tell it's reciprocated on both ends, so good for them. But Taylor and Clarke, they head off to the speakeasy, and she's asking him, like, do you have any, like, wedding plans or whatever? So she's pretty much asking him questions about where are you at in terms of marriage. So she's asking him about that, like, what do you want to do at your potential wedding? And he talks about how he wants everybody to have cowboy hats, of course. And he says that he wants like the couples, like the married couples and the couples to have their initials in the hats. She likes that. He ends up asking her if she wants, like, what does she want about a wedding? Like, does she even want to have a wedding or do you want to go to the courthouse? And she's like, no, I want an extravagant wedding. Well, you can see that. I can see that. Clarke put that shit on. Like, when you look at Clarke, she don't ever look bad. Like she's very well put together. She always has a nice fit on. She always looks good. Like you can tell she takes pride in looking good. So she might she might turn that over onto Taylor. She might have him looking good soon. But he ends up asking her like, "What are your color schemes? Like, what do you have going on?" And she's thinking like light pink, which he then stated himself. So maybe they're on the same. They kind of get each other. Like these two really grew on me over the last week. Like, you can tell they have, they got a connection. I sometimes question if Clarke really is fully interested in him. But because she's so laid back. And she's super, super, super laid back to the point where it looks like she's just kind of like going along to get along. But I think she likes him. I think she likes him. Will it work for the long haul? I don't honestly think so. Because I just look at her, like I said with Olandria. I feel like Clarke is at a different level too. I feel like Clarke, she's sophisticated too, and I feel like she's going to expect a little bit more and need a little bit more. Not to the degree of what I see of Olandria, because as we see, she can get down there on Taylor's level and actually have those little stupid, like meaningless conversations, and he seems comfortable and she seems comfortable too, but I just don't know how long it's going to last. But for right now, they seem good, but they start kissing or whatever. And Taylor's talking about how he feels like he's known her forever. Like, he feels like he's known her for years, and he's ready to close it off. In that moment, I was like, okay, I know where this is going. But Chris and Huda, they're on the terrace, and she's talking about how he's been super quiet. You can already tell Chris is agitated. He's agitated. He's trying to not really talk about too much right now to keep himself from lashing out. But he was like, no, my mood is mellow. She's like, what's wrong with you? And he was like, I'm just mellow. Obviously, there's something wrong with him. She can detect it as well. But she's asking him, like, are you thinking about something? And he's sitting there being short with her the whole time, just being short. But he then says that he's feeling some type of way. Or what did he say? He said he feels the same way. He tells her that he feels the same way that he already did about her. Basically telling her, like, I still feel the same way about you that I do. That's not true. We'll talk about it in a minute, though. But she didn't ask if he likes her. I was like, oh, so we going back to the Jeremiah shit, asking if somebody likes you. But he claims that he does like her. She says she gonna throw up or whatever. And he says, you can throw up in my mouth. I'm like, I'm stopping writing these notes now. But they got very odd energy. And I could already tell this was setting it up. And they're ruining Huda's redemption arc that production wanted her to have. And I'm enjoying every bit of it. Because y'all tried it. Because where's movie night? So we get back over to Amaya and Bryan. They're now in the hot tub. They're kissing. They're having like pretty basic conversations, but you could tell they just naturally vibe. Like they have a good energy together. They bounce off each other well. You could tell he matches her physical touch. Like they kissing on each other. Like they kissing on each other, having conversations, but in between they're kissing on each other. So they're having these lovey-dovey romantic moments. She asked him about like, has he ever been on a vacation with a romantic interest? He says yes, he did with his ex. He asked her the same. She's been on a romantic getaway. and they start kissing. Like I said, they have just they puppy love. Right, but then we get back to everybody else getting ready for the night, and Huda's pretty much telling the girls that the parenting shit wore Chris out. She's taking it as that when that's not the case. I'm like, he's sick of you. That's really what it is. He's just trying to hold it in and fake it till he makes it. But he's down there telling the boys now that the shit he was pissed off. I already knew that he was pissed off about the kiss. He's pretty much telling them like she dubbed him for that kiss when he asked for it, and she was looking around making sure that nobody was around. And I was like, okay, yeah, like he's irritated with her because it's like, why can't you kiss me? We're gonna get to that in a minute, but Nick then says like, so she doesn't kiss you outside of the challenges and stuff, and he was like, fuck no. And Ace was like, but didn't y'all kiss outside the challenge? And he was like, yeah, we did it in the speakeasy, but nobody was up there. Basically proving his point, she can't do it in public. And that bothers him, at least in the moment. Honestly, don't. We'll get to it. We'll get to it. But Amaya, she's in the hideaway, dancing in the mirror, and everybody else is sleeping. Iris and Pepe, they fooling around. Amaya and Bryan, they in there getting it on. She talking about some bite them. She say, bite them, baby, bite them. I said, you already know what she talking about. But the next day, Amaya and Bryan, they're waking up. She had good sleep. He's tired. That means she went to work because they both started laughing. But Chelley and Olandria, they wake up, as they always do, wrapped around in that blanket together. Ace is pretty much alluding to Pepe about him and Iris having a good night. Everybody's making breakfast as normal. And the boys are in there pretty much speculating on what happened in there with Bryan and Amaya, and if Bryan even lasted more than 2 minutes. I said, y'all sitting there trying to play Bryan like Bryan can't get in there and get it done. Seemed like he was in there getting it done. But Amaya and Bryan, they're in the room talking about their favorite part of the night, which was when they got it on. But Pepe and Ace, they're talking about the date that Chelley had for Ace. And Ace is pretty much like, yeah, she went above and beyond, and that meant so much to me. But Bryan and Amaya, they're in there now. They're outside of the room. They're actually sitting outside by the hot tub. And she's talking about how thankful she is and how happy she is about their connection and how it's growing and it's getting even more strong. And she says that she sees him in a romantic way, but also sees him as a best friend, which is what you want. You want that. That's what you want in a relationship. And he was like, yeah, I agree. He was like, essentially, we're two misunderstood people that are understanding each other. Love them. They're my favorites. But back at the villa, Olandria, Nick, Huda, and Chris, they're talking about how they can't wait to see Amaya and they can't wait to hear what she's about to state. And Amaya and Bryan come in. So everybody's screaming. They come out smiling. Both of them are smiling. They start talking about how Amaya is glowing and how Bryan is walking different. So the girls, they go head off with Amaya. The guys go head off with Bryan. So they're all figuring out what's going on. So Bryan tells the boys about how they went from the jacuzzi and made their way to the bed. And it was great. They had good conversations. They were hugging and kissing. And he said he would do it 1,000 times over again. I said, so that's a good sign. They had a good time. And he was like, he feels like he lost his virginity because the journey was beautiful. I said, Amaya put that shit on him. That's what that means. Amaya did her job. But he then tells us that he feels closer to her now, and it's been smiles ever since. But she goes over and literally tells the girls the same thing and about the same verbiage. I was like, they really make sense together. They think alike. They talk kind of similar when it comes to like actually relaying information. But she enjoyed it too. And she tells the girls pretty much the same exact thing. Olandria ends up asking how many journeys did you go on? And she said 2. And she was like back to back. And Amaya said yes. They all screaming. They asked if he ate the kitty. She says yes. They start screaming. They both had a good time. Both seemingly were pleasure. Good for them. But Amaya then says it feels good to finally feel like she's understood in a couple, finally. And she tells them that she's thankful for them giving them that opportunity to do that. Great for them. But Taylor, Huda, Chelley, Olandria, and Pepe, they're sitting around talking about yesterday and with the kids and stuff. And Taylor ends up asking, like, do y'all feel like y'all ready to be moms? And Chelley's like, yeah, I'm ready to be a mom, especially after yesterday. And she's like, I just got to have the right partner. Chelley then says that she wants to have a pair of twins. And they start talking about how Ace was stressed out. And she was like, he had his own self stressed out. They was like, no, you was stressing him out too. But Chris ends up getting a text about the boys going to play 3-on-3 basketball with no girls. They're not allowed. The girls got to say the villa. The boys are excited. The girls trying to figure out what they about to do. But Chris and Pepe, they're obviously feeling themselves. I'm like, they're going to use this as an opportunity to get some highlights because we saw them stats. But the boys, they get out there. They start hooping. I was not expecting Taylor and Nick to be as athletic as they seemingly were. Like every single dude out there seemed like they can at least play a pickup game. Ace, Pepe, and Bryan were on the same team. Chris, Taylor, and Nick were on the same team. It's first to 11. Ace seemed like he got some handles on him. Pepe was doing, obviously, he could shoot. Chris obviously was showing out. Nick got a shot in. Taylor got a shot in. Bryan had some handles. They all seemed like they was doing what they was doing. I was shocked because I was expecting somebody to look out of place. If Austin was there, it would have been him. But it seems like Chris's team had won. But the girls, they're sitting around talking about the boys playing ball. And then they start playing Would You Rather. And it started getting nasty. So I ain't even going to talk about that. But the boys, they sit down after the game and recap what just happened. But Ace then talks about how he's excited to get back to the villa. Pepe starts talking about how him and Iris started off as a friendship, and now the feelings are getting more and more real. I said, okay, whatever. These two, I would have sent them home. Me personally, I would have sent them home. Some people are going to be like, why would you send them home? They're boring. I would have sent Huda and Chris home too, but honestly, those two are the most boring ones, and I'm thinking realistically, Huda obviously is not going to go home. Like, she's going to have the votes, and not only that, producers are going to manipulate her being there. But Nick then says the same thing about him and Olandria, stating that, like, if our connection is meant to be, it's going to be meant to be, but we're pretty much growing on a physical and emotional level now, and I'm happy, and I want to take care of her. I said, oh, Cierra. Oh, Cierra. She probably having a hard time at home. But Taylor, he then tells the boys, not the boys, he tells Nick that he needs to make sure with Olandria to keep doing the little things because that'll go a long way because she really appreciated it. I said, how would you know? You didn't do shit for her. I'm like, it's crazy. You didn't do any of that shit for her, which proves that you knew what you was doing. You knew you didn't like her and you purposely were not doing things because you didn't like her. Foreshadow. That's why what happened. But Olandria, she's over there telling Huda and Chelley and Soul Ties about her and Nick's connection or whatever. And she says she feels good about how they're going right now because the guilt essentially has left. Basically her thinking about Cierra. And she was like, I mean, we both enjoyed the cuddle. They asked her, no, she said, if you would have asked me weeks ago if this is what my journey would end up looking like, obviously I wouldn't have believed it. But Huda then states that she feels good with Chris because they communicate so well. Do y'all believe that? Do y'all agree with her? I don't think they communicate well at all. Because last night was proof of that. Chris had an issue and he did not want to address it. He did not want to address it with her. That's bad communication, honestly. Like, yeah, you trying to save face because you know who she is, but like, she addressed shit with you that she didn't like, but you had things that you didn't like about what she did and you didn't address it. You addressed it tonight, but you didn't address it then, so that's bad communication. But Huda likes to state things that she wants to believe and make it seem like it's actually true when it's not. But she then tells us that she doesn't feel judged with him and it's easy and she's thankful that she can finally relax in a relationship. Foreshadow. But she then tells them that he's perfect and she's having to remind herself to relax and not fuck shit up. But Chris then tells the boys that there's a lot that he likes about Huda, but she can be very combative and defensive at times. I said, is that JD talking? But he then says that he learned essentially through this experience that you got to speak up about shit when it's bothering you and it's something that you want to change. Obviously. That's what I said last night. But Pepe then says essentially go for it, open your heart, speak with your heart. He then says that he wants to be heard. That's what Chris is stating. But Taylor then tells them how he and Clarke are just moving so well together. She's giving him a feeling that he's never had before. She's bringing a different side out in him. And he loves being around her 24/7 and he could see her fitting in with his family. He then later on tells them that he wants to close it off with her. So he decides that he wants being creative, which proves that he really likes Clarke because he's actually reaching into that bank up there and actually really thinking of ways to make her feel good and do certain things that he would have never done with Olandria, which proves that he did not like her. Because I was like, does he not know how to do certain things for a woman? But it's clear he does because he only doing it for the one that he actually likes, which is why him doing what he did was fucked up. Because you know you didn't like Olandria and you could have stopped the whole stringing her along. But he wants to do a cheer for the boys, like I said, because Clarke, she used to be a cheerleader. So he's being thoughtful. But the boys, they come back from the villa while the girls are playing ping pong. They're in their fake limping. And they all pretty much go migrate over to the fire pit. They're talking about what happened. Taylor ends up asking the girls how their day was. The girls said that we had fun without y'all, but we missed y'all. But everybody's now getting ready for the night. And Taylor, he's trying to pretty much plan the closed off situation that he wants to do, like the performance for Clarke with the boys. And he wants it to spell out exclusive, which I'm like, exclusive? Because exclusive could mean like actually boyfriend and girlfriend. Is that what you're trying? That's what I was like. Is that what you're trying to say? But she's upstairs. Clarke is upstairs telling the girls that it wouldn't be too big of a problem with them actually doing this in the real world. Even though it is long distance, they have good communication. But the boys, they're outside practicing. So once they finish practicing, the girls come on down. They gather for the toast. Taylor takes over. He starts off the toast. He's thanking them for all the memories and stuff that they've shared so far this summer. He tells them he loves them all. They all cheers. He says, wait, I forgot something. So the boys form. They form together. They start the performance. So they start spelling out Clarke's name. And they pretty much state, like, we want you to be with Taylor. And Taylor gets in the front doing his little goofy shit that he always does. And he pulls her by her hands. And it was funny, the shot that they had, it's like they're holding hands. Like, this is them and I'm Olandria. She's smack in the middle and they got the camera on her. At first, she looked a little bit salty, but she was smiling and stuff, which I'm glad that she was happy. You can tell she is happy for them, so I'm happy about that. But he then tells Clarke that since the moment they met, sparks flew, and essentially he wants to be exclusive with her, and he asked to be exclusive. I'm like, you mean closed off or be your girlfriend? I don't know. These words can mean other things, but Taylor accepts it. I'm not Taylor. Clarke accepts it. Everybody's excited. Everybody's cheering for him. But she tells us that she loves it for them, that they're actually in this place right now. And she loves the fact that he wants to make it work in the outside world. Like I said, he seems very, very goofy, which I'm like, is it a bad thing for her too? Because Clarke is very laid back. So maybe he's bringing out that side in her. Only time will tell if it actually will go the distance, but we'll see. But they go head off and talk to each other. Huda and Chris go walking off, and now the rest of the crew is watching because the boys obviously know what Chris is about to do. The girls don't. So Nick and Bryan are pretty much talking about it, and the girls is like, what's about to go down? Like, what's about to go down? They sitting there being coy. So Chris and Huda, they go sit and talk in that area where everybody that's sitting over there at the island in the middle of the yard, they can see. So they're watching them as they're watching them. But Chris ends up telling Huda that he wanted to talk to her about something. And she's like, why are they sitting here staring at us? Like, why are y'all staring at us? I was like, she think he probably going to close it off. And that's not what it was. But he then mentions how she looked around when he asked her for that kiss the other night. And she was like, I was not ready to kiss in front of people. I'm like, you? That don't make no sense. But he then says nobody was around us. And she starts interjecting and he says, I wasn't done. I said, ooh. Ooh. And she was like, I mean, I don't mind doing it in front of other people, but in here, but it's mean. And I'm like, what you mean it's mean? And I'm like, tell me if I'm wrong, but that's what it said on the closed captions, but that's what I got. I rewound it back and that's what I heard. And that's what I read on the closed captions. So I'm like, what is mean about that? Because everybody else is in a couple. Like, you can kiss him in public if that's what you really want to do, which proved my point. She does not like him. Her fans was in my comments. She do like him. You're just a hater. How am I a hater when I'm just literally talking about what I see on the TV? And she just proved it here. We know how Huda is when she likes somebody. She can't get her hands off of them. And she's already kissed him before. So what is the difference? I don't get it. I don't get it. I was like Chris. I was very confused. But he then says, but you want to do other things in the bedroom. So I'm confused. I'm like, me too. But she then says in the bedroom it's more private. I said, how is it more private when y'all are in the same bedroom with 12 other people? I'm like, it'd be one thing if y'all was actually in a bedroom by yourself. Yes, you would have a point. But y'all literally be doing stuff in the room with everybody else. What is the difference? What truly is the difference? Because if you think they don't hear y'all over there fooling around, you're crazy. They know y'all be doing stuff. You can share a kiss in public. I guarantee you not too many people give too much of a fuck like you want them to, Huda. But he then says it's confusing because, like, you're in the bedroom doing all this stuff. Like, basically, we in here having sex. And she ends up cutting him off. And he asks, let me finish again. So he then says, if you don't feel comfortable giving me at least a peck or at least like a little simple kiss on the cheek, she cuts him off again. She cuts him off again. And that shit would have irritated me. I can't stand when people cut me off. But he then says, let me finish my sentence, please. And I was shocked she wasn't snapping back, but she know who to play with. That's clear. That's clear because Chris ain't going for that shit. But she talks about how she's very touchy and she's very physical and has been through a lot in here and she's moving slower. I'm like, I would have believed you if what happened last night didn't happen. Because are you really moving slow when you let him get in the cookie jar? Like, are you really moving slow? Like, which one is more intimate, a kiss or sex? Y'all tell me. But he then says, like, it doesn't make sense when we can't kiss in public. So what's the point in essentially having sex? And I'm like, that's a good question, because I mean, literally, what? I don't get it. But she gets up and walks away, and he's like, am I tripping? No, you're not tripping, honestly. Honestly. But she then tells us that she doesn't want to do the same things that she did in that connection with Jeremiah with Chris, and now she feels like she's just not doing it right. I was like, Huda, you literally are doing the same thing. Like, what do you mean you don't want to do the same thing? I mean, you started off trying to do it a little bit different, but you still fell back into those same patterns. So I don't get what it's like she's not self-aware. Like, she just don't understand what she's doing. But everybody else is wondering, like, what happened, because they see they're now separate and everybody's been watching and they can see the tension. But Bryan goes over to Chris and asks, like, what happened? And Chris is like, I don't know if I can do this. Like, he's like, I can't do it because every time I try to explain myself, she cuts me off. And he's like, I'm just trying to understand Huda's way of thinking, but I just don't think we're going to see eye to eye. And I don't think y'all are either. Like I said last night, it's not going to work. But Chris then pulls Amaya to get her perspective, and he runs that by her. And Amaya's giving him a lot of, like, positive reinforcements. She's like, I mean, I understand where you're coming from. I understand how it's confusing. And she was like, you got the right to express yourself in the way that you feel. But I feel like she's probably a little emotional right now. She's probably defensive. And it's probably to protect herself. But she's probably not realizing that it could cause strain between the two of y'all. But you're not tripping at the end of the day. She was 100% correct. But she then says that Huda essentially just needs to calm down. He thanks her. They hug. And they go off. Nick and Olandria, they're talking about Taylor and Clarke. Like I said, Olandria is very happy for them. She says, like, obviously she came into this experience with Taylor, and it's okay that she's not his person and he's not her person. And she's happy that they're happy because she loves love, and I do believe that was genuine. But we then moved to Amaya upstairs with Huda, talking about what she just talked to Chris about. And she was like, he feels like you might be embarrassed to kiss him in public. And Huda's like, no, I'm not. Amaya was like, okay, so do you not think that it has something? Are you sure it doesn't have something to do with the other islanders here? Huda then says that when her and Jeremiah were kissing, everybody else had an opinion. I said, Huda, be for real. Nobody had a problem with y'all kissing. When you decided to take all of y'all's bullshit and make it everybody else's issue, that's when they had an opinion. For real, for real. Nobody really had an opinion until you started acting a plumb fool. A toxic, verbally abusive fool. That's when everybody finally started to realize, oh shit, something ain't right here. And that's what pissed all of us off, because it had to get to that point for them to finally realize what type of shit she was on. And then they still kept you in the house. But she tried to make it seem like everybody else's opinions were the reason why she's moving the way she is now. No, that's not why it was. Like, that's not why it was. But she then says that she wants it to be her and Chris. And she just wants it to be just private between the two of them. And she's not worried about everybody else in the house. That's bullshit, because you are. Like, you wouldn't be looking around to see if everybody else is here if you weren't worried about what everybody else was thinking. But Amaya then says, like, he was just expressing himself. I don't think there's any bad intentions. And Amaya then says, I mean, I feel like he just feels like he's a little bit misunderstood at this point. But Huda then says that she's feeling like she's letting him down. Amaya comforts her. Pepe gets a text, and it's time to go ahead and get these votes out. I am so tired, y'all. If y'all can't tell, that's why I'm struggling to get my words out. But Pepe gets that text. Huda gets the text while they're all sitting there, pretty much telling them that America's been voting for their favorite couple. The couple with the fewest votes will be dumped from the island. Amaya gets the next text that tells them all to stand up. In no particular order, the couples that are safe were Chelley and Ace first, Amaya and Bryan second, Iris and Pepe third, the boring couple. But Olandria gets the next text that states that Huda and Chris are safe. And y'all better not vote for them to win after this episode. If y'all vote for them to win after this episode, y'all are stupid. Y'all don't really care about Love Island. Because that's not love. That's not love. Even though a lot of these couples this season are not love, almost all of them. But the couples that I believe actually have a future, whether it's short or not, is honestly Chelley and Ace, Amaya and Bryan. As boring as they are, I guess Iris and Pepe. Nicolandrians, y'all, they still got to sell me. They still got to sell me. But those three are the three that I see right now actually having a future outside of the show. For how long, I'm not stating it's going to be on some Serena and Cordell. But I see them at least going outside of the house and keeping the connection. But it's down to Taylor and Clarke versus Nick and Olandria. And I'm sitting here thinking, they're probably going to send Nick and Olandria home. I was like, they're going to send them home. But Bryan gets the text telling the couples to stand in front of the fire pit. So Ace is stressed out because this is his boys. His two boys is up there against each other. So one of them is going home. But Chelley gets the text. And I was like, okay, Chelley got the text. They definitely going to have her send Nick and Olandria home. Clarke and Taylor are sent home. They're standing there hugging each other. Amaya's getting a little bit emotional. She wasn't boo-hooing, but she definitely was getting emotional. Ace obviously is upset. Everybody gets up to hug them and say their goodbyes. Taylor and Olandria share a hug. Ace is hugging Taylor, pretty much telling him how proud of him he is and that he's happy that he came in here to find somebody and he's leaving with somebody, which is why you shouldn't be upset. Honestly, you get this far, whether you got this far or not, as long as you leave out of here with a connection, you should not be upset if you're really here for love. If you're really here for love, you should not be upset to leave. Taylor was not upset to leave. Clarke didn't seem too upset to leave. Honestly, I don't want to say they didn't seem upset to leave. Obviously, they wanted to see it through, but they didn't seem too upset because obviously they're leaving with each other. But Taylor, Ace, and Nick, they have their final conversation or whatever. They talk about how they're friends and they're brothers now, they're family for life now, yada, yada, yada. Jeremiah's probably having a ball watching this. Finally, somebody got sent home out of that trio of haters. But Taylor then says that what him and Clarke have is real. Nick says, yeah, you came a long way. And yeah, they ended up leaving, and that was the episode. We're getting towards the end of the season, y'all. Please leave me a thumbs up. I thugged through this one. It was rough. It was rough. But y'all always show me love, regardless if I like the video or not. Because there's a lot of times the recaps, I'm not too big of a fan of them. That's why I don't watch them back. But thumbs up to y'all. Please thumbs up the video. Drop your comments down below. Me and Elise going to go live tomorrow, same time, 9 p.m. Eastern time. So be there because we're going to talk about what's happened so far since last week. And yeah, we're going to do probably our final predictions on what we think is going to happen with the win. Who's going to win. But yeah, see y'all then. Peace.